Hey, what's up? I'm going to do a real quick guitar lesson on planes, trains, and taxicabs. There'll probably be a more complete one coming on later, but for now I'm just going to do a short version of it to get someone through it. Alright, hope you like it. Okay, this intro part, this is the trickiest part of the whole song probably, because there's some very intricate finger style things going on. So get ready to kind of wrap your brain around these 16 bars right here. But these are, if you can get this part down, the rest of it's not too bad. So, first thing we're doing, we're just brushing a D chord. We're hammering on the F sharp. And I would do this with just any finger shape because you're about to switch the D chord into this bar shape where you've got a bar across 3 fingers, the 2nd fret of the top 3 strings, and then your middle finger on the 3rd fret there. So you're going from the hammer bar to this D shape, 2 D shapes right in a row. And that's separated by. So see if you can get. And once you got that descending melody, show you the fingering real quick. Pinky's on 5th fret of the E string, middle finger 2nd fret of the E string, pointer finger, yeah, I guess 5th fret, 3rd fret, 2nd fret, 5th fret of the B string, and then 3rd fret of the B string. Yeah, real simple melody. So the key is you can either do this with single chucks or chuck strums, but you always want it to sound like there's just whatever note is on top is the only note on top. So by the time you get to the B string, you want to make sure when you do that chuck, you're just getting the B string. So see if you can get that melody. And generally speaking, the whole way through, the thumb is just going to be going. It's just a straight quarter note groove, nothing fancy there at all. But getting it into everything. See how I made sure that's the only note that was sounding? Make sure you get the other notes in. Thumb, finger. Yeah, see if you can listen for those familiar notes. When I'm up here on the thin E string, I'm going, whenever I'm plucking, what is it? That's a chuck. I'm plucking with 2 fingers, chucking with both fingers, and then I'm plucking the D and the B string together, and then just chucking the B string. And it's probably easiest to chuck a lot of this with your pointer finger. I kind of mix my fingers up sometimes, but that's one way to do it. Let's see here, that's the first phrase. Right, that's the next phrase. So first thing you got is the ring finger's down here on the 4th fret of the A string, so you've got a C sharp here in the bass, and the first thing you got is a hammer on. Now this is a funky hammer-on because you have to get your finger right into this sort of A chord position. I'm using my pointer finger to bar the 2nd fret of the D, the G, and the B string. So it's almost like you're making an A shape, but you got to kind of go and get right into that position. So when I hammer this, I hammer it with sort of like with that part of my finger. Normally you'd hammer with the tip of your finger. I'm hammering kind of almost with the back end of this section of my finger. So I can kind of roll right over. It takes some getting used to, especially with this finger down. See, as soon as I get to that, I'm hammering with just those 2 notes. I got the bass note, I slap, and then I pluck all of the notes. And really what I'm doing is I'm plucking those with my fingers and then the bass note. And then a melody just like before. I'll slow that down. If you get confused about the in-between notes and the extra kind of filler notes, refer to the tab. They'll definitely help you out, but this video will mainly kind of show you what the fingering is. And then I'm just going, same melody as before, but you got some different fingers down, so you got to kind of work your way through. All right, next chord. The melody is. I'm using my middle finger to get the third fret of the thick E string, so there's a G down here in the bass, and I'm having the pointer finger hammer onto the second fret of the top E string, and then it's the open B string. Play that twice. Play the third fret of the B string twice, and then the open B string, and then I kind of pull off the third to the second fret on the E string. Slowly. So that's that phrase. So it's. Oh. Trying to remember what's next. I now remember. Alright, so you got one finger down here on the second fret of the D string. You kind of almost brush an E minor 9 chord, so you have the thick E string, and then with the pointer finger down the second fret of the D string, then you brush all the other open strings like an E minor chord, and you hammer onto the second fret of the thin E string. And then you slap and play the B string open. And the thumb's still going on. Then you're getting into, you're kind of outlining an A chord, but you're sort of suspending it with the third fret of the B string and the fourth fret of the G string. It's kind of what you're going to. And then you're going to go up the scale here, so see if you can get. I'm kind of double plucking those with either my pointer in my middle or my middle of my ring. Scale is you've got the A shape down here. Those two fingers are in thirds, so they're third fret of the B string, fourth fret of the G string, fifth fret of the B string, sixth fret of the B string, and then I gotta kind of slide these two fingers in there. The middle finger stays down; it's just gonna slide up to the seventh fret of the D string. The pinky is gonna be on the seventh fret of the, this is sliding up to the 7th fret of the D string. This is sliding up to the 7th fret of the B string. So it's going from to. I gotta kind of hammer the pinky in there because the middle finger was down here, so I gotta. That takes a little getting used to. Just taking a little while to get used to that motion is a little tricky, but very worth doing. The tricky thing is, right when you do this hammer, you want to make sure you pluck the D string with it, and you've been plucking the A string. So when you do this plant, you want to have it be planted on the D string already, so that when you do, you're plucking the D string. So it's like, it plucks the A string, and it plants on the D string, and then it plays the D string. So that's a tricky transition in general. That part will probably take some looking at, but it's worth looking at. And then we're back kind of almost to where we started. Still into this D shape. But once you've hit this note up here, as you're coming down, as soon as you hit this G coming down the melody, you've used the middle finger to get it, and that leaves the second fret of the B string open. So you're kind of playing a different chord. It's almost like you're playing a melody over a D major 7 now. So it's... Where's it go? How's it go? There we go. Then you're going to kind of switch to playing the B and the D string. And what I'm doing, I'm playing the 5th fret of the D and the G and the B string. So this ring finger here is on the C, on a C on the G string. So it's the 5th fret of the G string, and the pinky's playing the 5th fret, and then the pointer finger's playing the 3rd fret of the B string. That's over the D bass note. So really what you got is a little bass. It's not a bass line, there's like a chromatic line that's kind of changing the quality of the D chord. It's kind of like a D major 7 now, it's like a D7 chord. So really what's happening is the C sharp, it's going from D down to C sharp, down to C, and then it's going to turn into a G chord. So it's going like, there's a little chromatic line in there. And then, this is a tricky part. This took me forever to figure out what to put here writing wise, and when I wrote it I realized, man, getting this stretch is kind of weird. I'm using my thumb to get the 3rd fret on the thick E string, so we're back to a G shape more or less, and the melody is hammers on the 2nd fret of the E string, open B, 3rd fret of the B. Kind of outlines a D triad up here. Makes it kind of like a G major 9 chord. Pinky's on the 5th fret of the E string. Pointer finger's on the 2nd fret of the G string. 2nd fret of the E string still. Then 3rd fret of the B string. Open E. So that whole melody is. One more time. Once you've worked that out, it's that, what is it, the G minor major 7 that he uses in Stop This Train. So now you've got 3rd fret of the G string, 3rd fret of the B string, pointer finger on 2nd fret of the E string. I'm just going for the melody. So I'm hammering on against the 2nd fret of the E string, coming back down through the open string, and then 3rd fret of the B string is the last note of that. So that whole G shape is. So there's this kind of funky little C chord insert in there, which I really like. This is one of my favorite moments in this early melody. It's really, really cool. So you gotta kind of. So you're kind of barring the 3rd fret. You're on sort of a C chord. And you have ring finger 5th fret of the E string, pinky 6th fret of the B string. The middle finger is going to come up and the pinky is going to come down to the 5th fret. So you got. Third's coming down, and then you're playing on the B and the D string. You're kind of playing them both open. I'm also kind of adding in the 5th fret of the D string to kind of brighten it up. So there's 3 notes, and then the pinky goes down onto the 5th fret of the B string, and then you're going to this D chord to get out of it. So that whole C. And I kind of play like an open D add 9 chord. It's like a D chord with the open E string. So that whole thing. And this is kind of mellow thing going out. So make sure you've got all that down up to there, and then the very last thing, which is the probably the easiest part of this intro, which is just really kind of mellows. Probably should have taught this first. thumb, chuck. Kind of hammering on with the D string. And now I'm kind of dropping the E string, and the B string now has the 2nd fret. So it's kind of like it's sort of a D major 9 chord. Is that an F sharp in it? It's really more like an A chord over a D bass. So you've got the 2nd fret of the G and the B strings. And the chord after that is this sort of G thing where you have 2nd fret of the D, 2nd fret of the G string, and 3rd fret of the E string. The B string's open. So you're kind of going back between D, that sort of A shape over it, this sort of G shape, and it's the same pattern over all the chords. I mean, the thumb and the pointer finger are pretty much going. And I usually use my ring and my middle finger to go. They're just kind of alternating on offbeats. And if you put that in with the thumb and the pointer chucks, it sounds like. So that part's kind of neat. Last thing. On that a little bit, you're on a B minor chord. This part, there's really no chuck strums. It's really just the melody. So really you have the B minor shape. You got the pointer finger down on the 2nd fret of the A string, middle finger, 3rd fret of the B string. So it's kind of coming down to the C sharp here with the bar. As soon as you get back up to this D right here, you're on the open A string. And you're kind of going up through the open E string. And you're still playing on the open A string. Playing the low E string. And then you, again, that kind of hammer to the open B string figure. We had that before. Last little bit is this thing on the A. You are making a little A shape up here. You're barring the 5th fret, and then you're using your middle finger to play the 6th fret of the G string. So like 3-finger A shape up here. And then you use the ring and the middle finger to pull off of the 7th fret of the E and the B string. And then they really quickly are on the 7th fret of the B and the G string. See if you can see they kind of move over. And I'm just kind of like whacking all of the notes there. And then I brush an open position A chord right before I go back into. At that point, I'm sort of comping over the words. And I sometimes change what I do in there. I mean, on the record, I definitely had a very careful process that I went through and all kinds of little melodies that I threw in underneath it. But that's the thing I think you should improvise a little bit more. I'm not going to give away all my details in that right away. If you want to read through the tab and have every little tick that I have in there, knock yourself out. My recommendation is just play any pattern that you know where you know, I can still remember the day, got the postcard from Canaan, singing everything that I've been wishing for is waiting, and I said, guess I got a trip to plan. I'm using the follow you into the dark pattern right there. Oh, but it's been 5 years since still ain't got plain fair. And there's a little tick you really got to have in there. As this D walks down. D major 7, D7. this little sequence of thirds up here. That's kind of important. Everything else you could just kind of read the tab and play whatever the chords are. But when you're on, by the time you get to this D7 chord, I'm on the thin E string and the B string. It's the 3rd and the 5th fret, 2nd, 3rd fret, 3rd and 5th fret, 5th and 7th fret. Playing a G and G. I can hardly remember how it goes at that point. I'm trying to think if there's any really other important melodic things that go on in the verses. I can still remember the day I got the postcard from Keaton, singing everything that I've been wishing for is waiting, and I said, guess I got a trip to plan. Oh, but it's been 5 years since the link got made there. My friends say it ain't that far, but you know, a whole lot longer when nobody knows the way. Yeah, generally speaking, that was the biggest thing that's really nice to have in there. That's the other thing that's really important. When you're coming down, and my friends say it ain't that far, but you know, it's a whole lot longer when nobody knows the way. That was a tricky part for me to get used to playing and singing at the same time. When it goes, it's a whole lot longer when nobody knows the way. That's the part where the guitar really comes out. So you're on this G minor major 7 chord. There's an important melody there. It's pulling off of the E string to the 3rd fret of the B string, 3rd fret of the G string. You really want to hammer on this D chord. Hammering onto the A on the D string, playing the F sharp up here, and then hammering from the open B to the 3rd fret of the B string. So that whole little. That little slide, you're sliding up a 6th, your pointer fingers on the 3rd fret of the E string, middle fingers on the 4th fret of the G string, slide up 2 frets, back down, and then you're back to your D shape. And you're kind of playing that one again. That. So that whole 6th figure looks like. Alright, I'm just going to go through a little further and see if there's anything else really important I think of in the verses. Engine buses to run on time, and the easy street line cuts out for it hits 69th Avenue. I might catch the southbound out this afternoon. I cannot come too soon. On the chorus, old people only brought a song to light the way. Pain would be much easier to bear. Just that people don't have you see. There's another little melody I throw in on the chorus that when I get to. It's just that people don't have ears to hear. It's not that they don't care. So I'm coming out of the same minor chord. I'm walking down, G in the bass. Now there's an F sharp in the bass. It's more like a D7 with an F sharp in the bass now. I'm using my middle finger on the 2nd fret of the E string. My ring finger on the 2nd fret of the G string. My pointer finger on the 1st fret of the B string. Just a minute. And then I'm kind of playing the open E string on top. That's the melody right there. You're kind of coming off of the thin E string. I'm using my pinky to kind of on the 3rd fret of the B string. That gets you through that melody. back to this riff again. And then, let's put it this way. If you get even that far in this song, I'd be extremely, extremely impressed. I'm going to hold off on going off on the second verse. If you get this far, if anyone makes me a video of them playing that far in the song reasonably accurately, I'll go through the rest of the second verse in a short video. But generally speaking, the stuff that's going on in the verses is not nearly as critical as the as that intro. That intro and the outro, which are the same thing, are really, that's kind of the real hook for the song. The chorus for the song is really kind of vague vocally. There's no real catchy melodies in it, but the thing at the beginning, that's huge. And occasionally you should bring little melodies or stuff out in the verses if you can. If you write your own, dude, that'd be even really cool. Maybe I'll steal some of your riffs from you. Who knows? I try to keep that part a little bit looser. And the other thing that's really fun is the solo. I'll give you a real brief skinny on how I do the solo, but I'm not going to walk through the whole thing because usually when I do it, I try to improvise it anyway. So for me to just like go through some exact solo that I would play, and it might be a good exercise. But mainly, I'm just going to explain how I did it and see what you come up with. See if you're that cool. It. I'm sort of going just through any of the chord progressions in the song. The main thing is the bass line is going to have a note in it that's going to really make the chord clear. I'm on the D, the C sharp, which makes it sounds like it's going through an A. Does it B minor, A, and then the A. It's the same bass lines we've had the whole song, so the chord structure is going to be kind of audible. But I'm really focused on there being two parts. And the way I practice this, ideally, if you're playing an open string, that makes it the easiest because then your left hand is really, really free. So I would just sit here practicing like playing over a D chord. Until I get used to that and I can kind of use my licks that would fit over the D chord. Then I put the C sharp down. And so on and so forth. I'll just go over a bunch of bass positions. B minor chord. Just mess with the licks that I know lead guitar wise and see what I can make work. And once you've just gotten used to every one of those chords, you start weaving them together. Anyway, so I think you get the idea as to how I put it together. And this solo was the main reason I think I wrote this song. Obviously I had the lyrical ideas that I kind of put with it, but the technical idea I really wanted to explore and I designed the whole thing around was the idea of doing these two-part solos and really being comfortable fluidly moving around the neck through a bass line and playing melodic stuff with it. So this solo to me is the most challenging part by far, because to be comfortable playing in all these positions and really that took me quite a while to do, and I'm still working on it. You can see it's definitely a work in progress for me still, but if you can get that, that's like a cool thing. I don't know anyone who plays like this, so it's a very new sort of thing, at least in my mind. And yeah, like I said, if anyone wants to explore it and go with it, I'd say go as far as you can. You have my blessing. Go get them. Yeah, I'm going to leave it at that for now, see what you do with it, and yeah, hit me back if you have more questions, if you want me to go further with it, explain specific details. Yeah, until then, be well, everyone.